Picture the scene. It was Sunday, the 10th of November, just ahead of the big Remembrance Day services about to take place right across our country. And there, at a home in Essex, was Allison Pearson, Daily Telegraph columnist, podcaster, commentator, and I understand she was actually in her gown and slippers when, plod, knock on the door. What on earth could this be all about? Well, Allison joins me right now. I've set the scene. What happened?
Yes, there were two young constables by the door, and they said, one said something about a non-crime hate incident, which was a year ago, with me, a social media post a year ago. And I said, what was it about, the tweet? Give me an idea of what it said. And he said, I'm not allowed to tell you that. And then I said, who is my accuser? And he said, we're not allowed to tell you that either. But it's not the accuser, it's the victim.
The victim?
The victim. So, Nigel, I had a victim. And, then it was just a very, very surreal and shocking conversation. And because it was Remembrance Sunday, I drew myself up to my full 5 feet, 3.5. And I said, we're here today on a special day commemorating hundreds and thousands of young men your age who lay down their lives for the country so it could be a free country and not live under the jackboot of tyranny. And here you are on Remembrance Sunday coming to my house in something that I consider to be against freedom and tyrannical. And I said, and what would those young men think of you today? So they looked a bit... I think the poor coppers probably thought, we've got a right one here.
Well, they did. But I mean, so they knock at the door, and that's obviously slightly threatening. Not something I suppose you're particularly used to in your life. But they can't tell you what you've done.
No.
They can't tell you who the victim is.
No.
So what are they doing? Just trying to frighten you?
Well, I said to them, how would I defend myself if I don't know any of the relevant details? And they looked a bit, again, a bit confused. I think they may have been on a sort of bacon roll run when they were told to come up. But it was, I'll tell you, Nigel, it was shocking. It was upsetting. I'm a law-abiding person. Nobody likes to... I respect the police. I want to trust and respect the police. This seemed to me a completely mad overreaction. Whatever it was that I posted a year ago on X, I'm not in the habit of writing anything horrible and inflammatory. If I wrote something that was unwise, and I appear to have deleted that tweet, I have no memory of what it was. I still don't think that's a proportionate response to something that I think that they might, looking at what Essex police are doing and forces around the country, I would say they're getting more interested in trying to solve thought crime than the kind of crime that normal people are interested in. Burglaries, sexual assaults, muggings, people having their phones nicked. The stats are really incontrovertible.
So you view this, you really feel that you are being harassed under a thought crime?
Yes, I do.
What also surprised me was, a non-crime hate incident suddenly has criminal implications, apparently.
Yes, it does. Now, when Suella Braverman, Kwasi will know about this, when Suella Braverman was Home Secretary, she thought these non-crime hate incidents were bad because they impacted on freedom of speech, right? Because they had a chilling effect on freedom of speech. So she wanted to get rid of them. Apparently, Rishi wasn't keen on taking that kind of decisive action. So they came in with a code of conduct to tell the police to exercise common sense, proportionality. Is this in the public interest to go around to Alison's house and tell her that she's done this thing? Yes. Is this thing that's been done going to genuinely incite hostility? Is it going to have real life repercussions in the world rather than just being something stupid that millions of us say on social media every day? Now, that was supposed to be enforced, and these non-crime hate incidents were supposed to be... The police were supposed to stop doing them. They're doing more of them.
See, I wonder, because you're a well-known person, you've got a voice, front page Daily Telegraph today, you're here, etc.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many other people this is happening to who simply don't know what to do, where to go. And how long are they left hanging?
A long time. So I heard from Maya Forstater. She is a leading light in the women's fight back against defending women's spaces. She's been very, very brave. And she immediately messaged me and said exactly the same thing happened to me. They said, we can't tell you what your tweet said. We can't tell you who's accused you. She said she has been on the hook for a year waiting for the Crown Prosecution Service to decide whether to prosecute her. But the thing is, Nigel, the reason I decided to go public with it was because I felt ashamed. I don't want to be a person who's visited by the police. It's embarrassing, it's humiliating, but I can speak, okay? Yeah. So it's not shaming. I'm not ashamed that people come to my house with a really crazy overreaction to something that should just be let go. It's trying to shape the morality of the population, right? It's thought control. I'm allowed to say what I want. I mean, obviously, there are limits to free speech in the sense of inciting terrorism or riot. But this is just within the realms of what normal people think. And I've heard from so many people today with lots of very upsetting examples. They're just normal people. The coppers come around. They haven't got my resources or my platform. Yeah. They're scared stiff. Yeah. They're embarrassed with the neighbours and the family. And they sit there thinking, God, are these people going to take away my livelihood, my reputation? And the hangover is if they this thing is successful, they could keep my personal data online, and if I applied for a certain position in a charity or working with children, I could be deemed a dangerous person because of one tweet last year.
Unbelievable. I'm joined in the studio by Lloyd Russell-Moore, former Labour MP, and Kwasi Kwarteng, former Conservative MP and former Chancellor of the Exchequer. Lloyd, does this all go back to Equalities Acts at the end of the Labour government? I mean, what is the root of all of this in your view?
Well, I think that there is some of it around going back to equalities and anti-racism, all that kind of stuff. But I think that it has got out of hand. I think it's got out of hand on all sides. If you remember, the Crown Prosecution Service prosecuted the woman who had a placard that said Rishi Sunak was a coconut. She was brown herself. And they prosecuted her, took it, unpleasant thing to say, but shouldn't be a crime. Took her to court, and the court found that the Crown Prosecution Service had wasted public money, had found her completely innocent. But, of course, that meant that she was a teacher, she lost her job in that period, it uprooted her family. The same on the other side. We don't know what you said in this instance, but the same on the other side. To me, it seems that the first instant we should say to people is you have to have thick skin, and you can't be prosecuting people because you've upset other people. And the second thing is that we need a limit of time on this. You can't say, oh, well, something you wrote 10 years ago, now in hindsight, looks like it could upset people, because that also is an vote madness.
Kwasi, you guys had a chance to deal with this.
Yes.
And
it got worse.
It did, because the culture became worse. If you look at the universities, you mentioned Suella Braverman. She was cancelled. Yeah. The no-platform cancel culture has everything to do with what happened to you on Sunday, because essentially people are policing thoughts. They're banning platforms for people who have other thoughts or have other ideas, and they're restricting the opportunity for debate. And that's what people can see, and that's why, I dare say people look at your show because we have debates. Yeah. We don't all agree about everything, but we have a wide range of debate. Whereas out there, in the kind of legal world, the political world to an extent, the universities particularly, there's a much, much narrower scope for debate. And I think what happened to Allison on Sunday reflects wider trends in society. So it's not just a legal police matter.
This has become a bad law which started with very good intentions. So it had its roots in the Stephen Lawrence case, when people felt that racist incidents were not picked up and not joined together by the police. There was also the terrible, tragic case of Fiona Pilkington, a lady with a disabled daughter. They were subject to horrible abuse, Nigel, and Fiona ended up in a car, setting the car on fire with her and the disabled daughter. Absolute tragedy. And the findings of that case were that if some of the hate incidents had been joined together, then the authorities could have taken proper action. I quite understand that. What we're talking about now is freedom of speech, precious in our democracy, and I agree with Lloyd, we should all be a bit more grown up and think, OK, I don't like what that person said.
That's what a free society is.
But this is made worse. This situation is made, because you alluded to it earlier. People out there in my old constituency, all around the country, can see there's an epidemic of small crimes. things like shoplifting.
Yeah.
You know, you read all the time
Yeah.
that some, you know, they don't even bother.
No.
That's anecdotally.
No.
And so when they go after you in that way, people will be asking themselves, well, what about the muggings and the shoplifting? What's happened with that?
I'd be better off punching a policeman in the face at Manchester Airport than I would.
Well, we're still waiting. We're still waiting.
Perhaps the policeman who came to me, Nigel, could go around and visit the people who bopped the woman on the face.
Maybe the CPS will act on the Manchester incident. We'll have to wait and see. Alison, where does this campaign go next? Are you going to go and meet the Home Secretary and try and get the law reinterpreted?
Well, I'm going to probably go in for an interview. The Free Speech Union, which is a brilliant organisation, is helping me, and they're giving me a solicitor. So if I have to go into the police station and have a voluntary interview, I'll go in, and maybe then we'll be able to find out what I'm accused of, and then we'll see. We'll see how it progresses. I mean, we've had a look. The Telegraph has done a great campaign today, having a lot of people coming forward, and they don't like the feeling of this. It does feel as though our society is changing in character. But as I said, looking at the stats for Essex Police, we see hate crime, 18% they're solving, racially and religiously aggravated crime, whatever, 19%. Things like what Ghazi is talking about, theft, grievous bodily harm, they're right down. So are these guys sitting in the office thinking, I'll have a cup of tea and a digestive and I'll have a look through Alison Pearson's X feed to see if there's anything...
Well, I mean, who's the person that's the victim? This could be just somebody doesn't like your journalistic style or your political position. It could be utterly vindictive in every way.
The intent has been completely lost out of this as
I
well.
agree with
People take offence and you say, well, I might have used the wrong words or words that trigger you. But if they trigger you, you should go to counselling, not actually require other people to use different words.
The whole thing has a very, very sinister edge. I'm delighted you've come on tonight and talked about it and debated it with the panel. Now, talking of Essex Police, a spokesperson for Essex Police said the report relates to a social media post which was suddenly removed and investigations now being carried out under Section 17 of the Public Order Act. As part of that investigation, officers attended an address on Sunday, November the 10th, to invite a woman to attend a voluntary interview on the matter. So there you are. You can follow this story, GB News, on the X platform, on Elon Musk's brilliant free speech platform, where we can say what we blooming well want to, within reason, but have a proper debate so you can follow all of this. We are not going to drop this. We're going to keep on with this. X is where GB News will be picking up all of your comments and so much else too.